One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.
People astray.
And what up, Deadites? It's your boy KJ.
And your girl Crystal.
From the Scary Horror Show. That's right, we're coming live from the Horror Cave to do our 35th anniversary review of the classic movie about real vampires, y'all. The Lost Boys.
Yes.
So, this movie holds a special place in my heart because when I was a kid, I used to love to watch this movie. Vampires were so just awesome to me. A lot of movies in the past portray vampires in kind of a different way. This movie is so nostalgic. It's so 80s. I love it. And you had a classic cast in this. And we're going to get into this non-spoiler review right now. Crystal, let them know what's up.
Well, this movie is about a mom and her two teenage sons, and I think that she just got divorced, so she's moving back home with her father to his house, I guess, and trying to find a job. So they moved back to this town called Santa Carla, which is really filmed in Santa Cruz, California.
Okay.
They changed the name because in the movie the town is known as the murder capital of the world. So the real city, Santa Cruz, didn't want to be affiliated with that title, so they made them change the name when they filmed the movie, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, so they moved to this town, and it's got a very high murder capital rate. And then when they're driving through the city, they see missing poster signs everywhere, missing teens and kids everywhere. So it's just adults, people just missing, vanishing, never to be found. So which seemed kind of strange and all. So they move into with their granddad, the two teenage boys. One's older, it's like 17.
Granddad is gangster. Go ahead.
The older one was he's probably seniors, high school, 17, and then the younger one is probably like 13, 14 or something. So they're brothers, and they just kind of get caught up in all this crazy vampire craziness when they try to go hang out and have a good time, go to this concert on the beach. That's how it all starts. I think the older brother, he sees this pretty girl and gets drawn by her, and he starts following her and kind of getting a little crush on her, but turns out she's hanging with this gang, a group of guys that are a gang, but in actuality they turn out to be vampires. So he gets caught up in that because of her and gets tricked into drinking the leader's blood, and he starts becoming a vampire. So they got to figure out how to keep him from turning all the way to a vampire. That's what the whole movie's about. The younger brother gets caught up with some new friends at a comic book store, and they're kind of like monster hunters. They suspect that his brother's turning into a vampire, and they tell him what they know, and they kind of bond together because they all like comic books, so they kind of form this group, and they're trying to save the older brother from becoming a vampire before it's too late. So just a really good movie. What you think about the movie?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it had a great cast. It had both of the Coreys in there.
Yes.
Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, two of my favorite actors. Corey Feldman especially because, the history with him and Jason. So,
Yes, he was in Friday 13th, I think, part 4.
Yeah, I don't speculate. We're just going to say part 4.
If I'm not mistaken.
And his character was in a few more.
His character was in like 3 of them.
Yeah. But, his just overacting in this was great. I think I read somewhere that he based his character on just Rambo and a lot of other Sylvester Stallone movies.
They suggested it to him.
So, he had a red
Chuck
bandana.
Norris and Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, he had a red bandana on and he talked like this.
Yes.
And, yes, we have to kill all the vampires. And it was just funny just to see a little kid act like that. Now, another thing that was really, really good and endearing about this movie is just, the whole brother aspect. Even though the brother had been taken by the vampires, which, by the way, Kiefer Sutherland played the lead vampire. He was great in this role. But even though things looked dire, the younger brother wanted to help the older brother at pretty much all costs. And they took on the entire vampire sect. They went down in the pit where the vampires were, tried to kill the vampires, and they thought that, you know, they had gotten the head vampire, but it turns out Kiefer Sutherland was not the head vampire. The head vampire was this nerdy older guy named Max. Max ran a video store. And for those of you guys who are younger and don't know what those are, that's what we used to do back in the 90s and the 80s. We used to go
to the video store, rent
movies.
On VHS.
Everything.
We couldn't press the button and just let something start back then. We had to get up and do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, exactly. So Max owned the video store, and he was just this nerdy, just kind of the last guy that you
was
expect.
Like a lame.
And he kind of romances the mom.
They start dating a little bit.
Side note about this, there were a few times where the mom, she got kind of, I guess, mystified into Max's lust, and she kind of downplayed what her kids were saying.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that had to do just a lot of some single moms are like that. I ain't gonna say desperate, but you know, she was like, okay, this nice looking man with a good job, trying to date me, and my sons are getting jealous. That's what she thought they were having trouble because it wasn't their dad, you know. So she was like, honey, we're just friends and we're just dating. There's no need for you to feel this way, you know. So she was thinking that's what it was.
And the whole time he's a killer.
But actually, and they suspected him at first, but they just couldn't prove it because he was like the head vampire. So the same rules and testing apply to him and they did to the other vampires. So they ruled him out. Like, okay, he's not a vampire, but he actually was. He was the leader.
Because he was the leader, like Crystal said, the same rules kind of
tests didn't work on him, the garlic and all that. Yeah. And the holy water. I don't think that holy water played either, no.
Yeah. And the one of the classic scenes in this was, you know, he was in the house and he...
Don't ever invite a vampire into your house, you silly boy. It renders you powerless.
Invited him in the house, and that's how he got access to the house. But I mean, it's just a great, just 80s movie. The movie is so 80s. Just that whole, just 80s, just vibe.
Yes, and it had a really good soundtrack as well. So it really took you there with the music and everything. And there were quite a few famous actors in this, movie. Quite a few who went on to do other things. Of course, Kiefer Sutherland, who we thought was the lead vampire. He's like a legacy. His father, Donald Sutherland, famous actor, and he's been known himself to be in quite a few movies. Stand By Me. People probably know him most from this TV series 24, which was on for like 14 years. So he's very famous for that. And then of course the two Corys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. They were very famous, somewhat famous. Corey Feldman probably a little bit more at the time. Before that, he had did like Gremlins and Goonies and things like that. Corey Haim had did Stephen King's Silver Bullet. So they became best friends because of this movie. And after that, so they met on doing this movie and became really best friends and did a ton of movies together afterwards. Dream. They did so many movies together. A License to Drive. So they were really good friends.
License to Drive.
Yeah, that was a good movie. One of my favorites too. So they became synonymous with each other. You know, if you saw one, you saw the other. They were very close. So just those three. There were some other people in there in the movie too that are famous, but I'm not going to bore you with all the details. But there's a lot of celebrities in this movie, and that was one of the things the director said, that it was a great cast and they all got along well together, which helped add to the success of the movie. And the movie Lost Boys changed the genre of vampire films. It made it cool to be a vampire, and Kiefer Sutherland and the gang and the leather gloves and riding the bikes, they were cool. So it kind of changed, and it inspired movies to come down the line, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Interview with the Vampire, Bram Stoker's Dracula. It just inspired all those movies to kind of step up the vampire game. And they were the first to do the funky little eyes for the vampires when they turned the vampires in their eyes. They were the first movie to ever do that with the contacts in the eyes. And they said it was so hard to shoot with those contacts in their eyes because they could only keep them for a few seconds and they had to take them out because because it would make their eyes water. So at the scene at the end where Michael is killing Kiefer Sutherland, when he looks at him and a tear falls down his eye, that was actually because the contacts were bothering him, but they just kept it in with it.
Okay, cool. That's what's up. Like, you're Crystal knowing these guys about this movie.
Yeah, just a really, really good movie. I love the movie. And it was originally intended to be more like the Goonies, kids movie. The original director assigned to the movie was Richard Donner, but he had to pull back because he got offered to direct Lethal Weapon in 1987. So he stepped back, and then Joel Schumacher took over, and he said, hey, because I think originally the vampires were supposed to be like 13, 14, and then Corey Feldman's character and the other guy, they were supposed to be like 8 and kind of chubby. So they decided when Joel Schumacher stepped in, he got some more writers on. He said, I want to kind of go a little bit higher, make it an R-rated movie, and let's have the vampires be like 17, 18, and then have the other kids be like 13, 14. So which was a good decision.
Yeah, definitely was. Now, another good thing about this movie that a lot of people don't notice is just, again, I brought up the brother dynamic, but just the whole family dynamic as well. Grandpa, he took mom in, he took her 2 sons in, he helped. And basically, if you watch the movie, you've seen the whole movie, he basically saved him because he's the one that killed Max. When they killed David, they thought the movie was over with. David, it's Kiefer Sutherland. They thought he was the main vampire, but he wasn't. It ended up being Max. Max is like, yeah, I want you to be the mom of all my boys, all my vampires. And, if you don't, we're going to kill your kids. So she was going towards it. Grandpa pulls in like Clint Eastwood, like, stakes David. Stakes
He grabs the car into the house.
Yeah. Stakes Max. It's a wrap.
Yes.
And like he's just so cool about it. He's just like,
because the whole movie, they're trying to be quiet around Grandpa. They don't think he knows what's going on when they're trying to kill these vampires with teenagers. And so it just turned out to be funny at the end. He was like, one thing I couldn't stand about this town is all these damn vampires, and they're looking like it. Because the mom just not found out tonight about vampires, and then the rest of the kids were like, thought they was hiding stuff and being sneaky, and turned out he knew the whole time that the town was full of vampires. And it just ends like that, and I just find the movie so funny when it ends like that.
Yeah. I mean, it just a whole family dynamic. The movie's funny.
Yes.
It's got jump scenes.
Cool. It's got a very vivid graphic scene when they kill these teenagers at the campfire, the vampires.
Yeah,
very
all over. I love brutal murder, death, kill scenes. So I was all for that. Now another thing about this movie, Crystal mentioned that this movie made vampires cool. Now in the later years, the 2000s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, they did a lot of where these vampires were just gothic, just romantic characters.
Oh, like, I know what you're talking about.
Like Twilight.
Love stories.
Yeah, no. That's not how I like my vampires. I like my vampires like David.
Girls like that though. Twilight and Vampire Diaries.
No.
The love story saga. In love with the vampire.
No. Vampires are killers. They're not romantic. They will drink your blood. They get you. So it is final score time. We're not gonna hold you guys. 35th review. This movie was great. I'm gonna let Crystal give her score, then I'm gonna give mine, and then we're gonna give our final take on it.
This was one of my favorites too as a kid. It was just really cool. There's a lot of energy. The cast had this great energy together and they got along well. You could feel that. It flowed off the screen. It flowed off the screen that everyone got along. A lot of familiar faces and a lot of actors that go on to do other things. So for me, I really enjoyed the movie. And for back in the day, it kind of make you jump a little bit here and there in the 80s. So I would give it 4 knives.
Wow, she's gonna give it 4. You know
it's
what?
Classic to me.
I'm gonna go on and agree with you. I love this movie. This movie was just so classic for me. It just brings back, tells me being a kid in my blanket with my popcorn in my parents' basement in East Point. I'm gonna go on and give it a 4 too. So yeah, follow us on Instagram at The Scary Horror Show. Follow us on Twitter at Scary Horror Show. This is your boy KJ
And your girl Crystal.
from ScaryHorrorShow.com.
.com.
Peace.
Holla.